Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
This is your Daily Detroit for Monday, July 15th, 2019. I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Sven Gustafson. Today, we're talking about Michigan's emerging recreational marijuana economy with Roberta King. She's the founder and owner of Canna Communications, a communications firm focused on the cannabis sector.
Plus, we bring you up to speed on the start of UAW negotiations, the Regional Transit Authority, Detroit City FC playoff matches, and more.
Lo and behold, who did we run into here at the Podcast Detroit Royal Oak Studio but my old Twitter friend, Roberta King, who is co-founder of Canna Communications out of Muskegon. Roberta, welcome to Daily Detroit.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Sven.
Yeah, absolutely. Back because we had you on, that must have been a year and a half ago now, probably, on the old Happy Hour podcast, the Daily Detroit Happy Hour, to talk all about it was the new medical marijuana laws in Michigan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so here we are now. We're getting ready for fully legal recreational marijuana businesses.
Yep.
So let me just start broadly. How's business for you? You run a cannabis-focused communications firm.
That is true. And things are going better. It's, I had not been an entrepreneur before, opening Canna Communication. It'll be 2 years in August. Mm-hmm. And, it has its ups and downs, its tears and joy. But good. I've connected with a few good clients. I still have a couple of good, thank God for the lawyers. And, probably every cannabis person is saying no, not. But the lawyers, lawyers have kept me afloat in this last couple of years. Now we're starting to do work with provisioning centers and others who, after they've gotten started up, realize that they need, comprehensive communication services. And so I'm starting to do some things with that. So that's cool.
Why have lawyers been so important to, a cannabis communications company?
Because, one, they need to get communication out there. And they're really in the cannabis world for the first year after the state, introduced its Medical Marijuana Licensing Act. And everybody had to go get licenses. For the most part, they utilized attorneys to get those licenses. So the attorneys were really very busy getting those licenses. Now, granted, you can get a license on your own without an attorney, without the help of an attorney. But, if you want a license, you probably need to have that kind of advice. And so the attorneys that I worked with just needed to get the word out about the work that they were doing and called on me. So, that was a good... Yeah. Well, dodge that bullet. So it's a scary thing being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. As you were saying, the big new thing is that the state of Michigan has just come out with regulations governing what's called micro marijuana businesses. Yep.
Yeah.
Tell us about those. What's that about?
It's sort of, I would say it's marijuana businesses for everybody else. So the first medical marijuana licenses that came out were very expensive for people to get, in excess of $50,000. And you had to have a ton of
background checks
and cash and liquid assets that, were pretty phenomenal in the several $100,000 range. And so there were a lot of people that just said, this is not for me. Mm-hmm. Well, when we all voted for Prop 1, we also voted to have marijuana micro businesses become part of the landscape. And so it's a great opportunity for savvy business owners who are, I think, really caregivers. If you're in the caregiving business and you've made your living providing medical marijuana for people in Michigan the last couple of years, it's something to look at. Still going to involve some cash. I mean, you're going to have to pay for a license at the state of Michigan. I think that's like $6,000. You're going to have to follow a bunch of rules just like everybody else in Marion. You're going to have to be a compliant business. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to involve some security and seed to sale tracking and some other things like that.
But you've got to buy get some real estate.
Yes.
To put your business in.
Yes. If you're in an area that's friendly toward it, then you should be able to just go ahead and start moving your business and moving forward to that. Yeah.
So you're coming to us from across the state over in Muskegon, different, geography, obviously, different culture, everything. I mean, how's the climate over there, as we get ready for recreational marijuana?
It's coming along pretty well. I would say that, Muskegon opened its first provisioning center, which I know for everybody in Detroit, they're just like probably going, you're so provincial. Everybody, hey, if you're coming over to the lake, because that's where everybody wants to be this time when it's 92 degrees outside, come over to Lake Michigan, and you can stop at Park Place Provisioning. So they opened in Muskegon, and they're going to open another one, another provisioning center in Crockery Township, which is on the edge of Ottawa County, right by 96.
Down near Holland.
Yep, between Holland and Grand Haven. And so that's really exciting. And there are, I think in Muskegon, they have an unlimited number of licenses that you can have, but they have 11 of them that are actively have been approved by the city of Muskegon. Mm-hmm. And Muskegon Heights is also going to be opening up some provisioning centers and growing operations. Eggleston Township is going to also be doing that. So there's a nice pocket of that happening up there. And we're seeing it, up in the Traverse City area. Petoskey's giving it consideration. And as I said before we started talking, what's really interesting is that every city, township, and village has the ability to have marijuana business if they so desire.
Mm-hmm.
And
or not, right.
Or not, yeah. And so they're opting in and opting out. So you can, look up the colorful map on the state website, and you can see where things are happening and where they're not.
Mm-hmm. For your clients, are you mostly representing people on the west side of the state, or are you kind of all over geographically?
I am mostly on the west side of the state right now. I do have a couple of clients, project-based clients over in the Flint area and over in this way, but this is where a lot's happening, but in strange places, Chesaning.
And you're talking about all these townships, down near Holland and everything that are opening their doors to cannabis businesses, which is kind of interesting because a lot of cities are saying, no, we don't want anything. But then these rural townships, what do you make of that?
I think it's money. I think that, they're trying to be part of that and take advantage of that. Grand Rapids is also, they're working on their medical marijuana licensing right now. They have a lottery system that they're working through, and I think they've maybe done 3 to 4 licenses right now for medical marijuana. The mayor of Grand Rapids, Rosalind Bliss, Grand Rapids City voted 71% for Prop 1.
Wow.
So they are definitely going to opt in for recreational somehow, some way. Mm-hmm. And so, it's been interesting just to see how these things pop up. But I think it's money, and it's also the desire of the populace. I think that the city council in Grand Haven is looking at it right now because in Grand Haven, they had an overwhelming number of citizens that voted for Prop 1. So when you have that many citizens that vote for something, if you don't go with their will, they can easily enough, and we see this happening quite a bit all over the state, that citizens put together a ballot initiative, and they can, with not a ton of signatures, circulate a petition, move that, and move that forward. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that if you don't want the citizens to write your zoning or your other business legislation, then you have to act on it.
What's the most challenging part of what you do, like running a cannabis-focused communications firm? Because you're dealing with a field, a whole it's brand new sector of the economy, and like as we talked on the Daily Detroit Happy Hour episode when you were on, there was a lot of gray area and a lot of uncertainty.
I think that probably the hardest thing is in communication specifically is that so many people who worked in cannabis for so long had to be very much underground, that they were fearful if they came out, or that people knew where they were, the police knew where they were, that they could be shut down, that they could be ruined, that so their assets could be taken. And so getting people over the idea that it's, having your name in the paper is okay. Having your business out somewhere where people can see it is okay. And learning to do that, learning to do business in a different kind of way, because they've always had to do business sort of underground and very relational. And I know somebody who knows somebody. And now it's like, now we have to move into this other area where we need to be out into the public and to let people know what your story is.
Yeah. So the retail stores, recreational retail stores are expected to start opening like later this year, right?
Probably after the first of the year.
Okay, after the first of the year. You see that as like a boon for your business, you think?
God, I hope so. Yes. No, I think that it will. I think it will change things. And I'm starting to actually see it now, too, where I'm starting to hear from people who need the things that I can do for them. We're having a grand opening. What can you do for us? Those kinds of things. But I think recreational and pretty much everyone who I talked to before I created Canna out in other places, out in Washington and Colorado, said that, medical was one thing, but recreational was a whole different thing, because all these businesses are going to now have to compete for everybody and try to entice and interest people, sort of the cannabis curious, people who either haven't used cannabis, thinking about it, want to try it, to entice them to come to their store. So how they behave in their store, what the store looks like, what the company values are, and all of those kind of things that make us attracted to brands that we use outside of cannabis. How will that come to us in recreational marijuana, and how will we compete?
Roberta King is the founder of Canna Communication out in Muskegon. Thanks so much for dropping by the studio today. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Here are a few things you should know around Detroit right after this.
Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by Milo.agency. Milo is a marketing agency that produces amazing experiences for audiences. They partner with their clients to drive business and create innovative content. Do cool stuff with them and talk to Billy at Milo.agency.
Ford Motor Company today kicked off negotiations for a new 4-year contract with the United Auto Workers to some tough words from the head of the union. UAW President Gary Jones said that while Ford has seen significant profits since the last union contract was signed in 2015, workers continue to see jobs outsourced to Mexico, China, and other countries. With this year's negotiations, Jones said in a transcript of his remarks, we will halt that race to the bottom. Opening handshakes for General Motors and Fiat Chrysler are set to happen Tuesday.
An updated vision of the future is out from the Regional Transit Authority. The new map and what they're calling aspirational goals are aimed towards improvements between 2020 and 2045 for Metro Detroit's transit system. Those goals are big for an area that's had more than 40 failed attempts at comprehensive regional transit. These goals include commuter rail, airport service, and bus rapid transit.
In the meantime, it's possible there will be a request to redraw the Regional Transit Authority borders to a smaller area that's more pro-transit and not include all of Macomb, Oakland, and Washtenaw counties. There's still no official plan for the 2020 ballot, and all of this comes in the shadow of no agreement on funding to fix Michigan's terrible roads. We'll have a link to the 2045 vision map in the show notes, and we'll plan on talking with some experts and stakeholders in a future podcast episode.
A new partnership with the University of Michigan, Michigan State, and Wayne State means that the city of Detroit will get its own economic data, separate from the regional and statewide numbers that we've traditionally seen. The 5-year deal will build a forecasting model for the city of Detroit's economy and the city's tax revenues. There'd be new local economic indicators created, such as the gross city product, similar to the more well-known statistic of gross domestic product. Also, the partnership will present the city's economic forecast each year. A representative for the University of Michigan said that this is, quote, an important positive step in the eyes of residents, investors, business leaders, and the credit market, unquote.
And last but not least, Detroit City FC will play host to the NPSL Midwest Region semifinals and finals at Keyworth Stadium this weekend. Second-seeded City will play the winner of the Med City FC Minneapolis City SC game Friday night at Keyworth at 7:30. Top seed Cleveland SC will square off against the winner of AFC Ann Arbor and Rochester Lancers earlier Friday afternoon. The Midwest Region Final is at 1 p.m. Sunday. Tickets for all games are now on sale.
All right, that'll do it for today's show. If you like what you're hearing, join Andrew, Allison, and Matt in becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/Daily Detroit.
It really helps ensure that we can keep fearlessly covering, discussing, and uplifting the voices of the people right here in the region that we love. I'm Sven Gustafson.
And I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.